Welcome, everybody. It is my pleasure, albeit a day late and a dollar short. We are now pleased to welcome Joe Sanchis to the stage.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I'm really honored to be here and present, actually, for the first time, a business I've been working on for over a year now. So,
Just get
Better For You formulas, and just a little about myself. I come from the San Francisco technology scene. I've been involved in building and founding several companies, as well as also in the venture space. Part of the the very first applied AI venture funds about 8 years ago. And then after COVID in 2020, my wife and I left San Francisco. We traveled around the world for a bit, and then we ended up here in Fairfield, really looking to go connect deeper within, look at the wholeness and holistic and consciousness-based studies at NYU. I wound up getting a master's degree in consciousness and human potential there. And over the past few years, I started going really deeper in health, especially my own personal health journey. And we'll start there, and then that'll lead to how I got involved in this business. So let's go to the next slide. So my own health journey, I wanted to know kind of why I wasn't always feeling energized or clear, all the kind of different things that come up in human physiology. And I started doing research and looking at like detoxes, and that led to kind of understanding like the human biology as a whole intelligent system. And if we kind of fix the root, it can deal with all the symptoms. And so what got involved in different like detox programs, such as Dr. Morse researches work. I wind up also doing a lot of my own self-examination by doing a lot of lab reports on neurological neurotransmitter stuff and different things like that. At NYU, I got to also do a lot of brain scans, and that was a lot of fun to see the development of your bioneurological pathways being developed. This is just over 1 year of progress. And then also, as a result of being here in town, I also got introduced to Ayurveda and got to meet some wonderful people like Dr. Raju, a renowned Vaidya. So, and then along this time, I got connected back with a friend of mine that I met in a meditation group in San Francisco many years ago. And he was telling me about these scientists he met, and we started kind of collaborating. He's a guy that I think has tried every nutraceutical product out there. Like he literally probably spends thousands, tens of thousands a month, and knows he's a genius with this stuff. And he started kind of working, collaborating with these scientists. And so I started getting really interested in that, and that kind of led to more discussions. And then I wound up helping them with a big contract. And then I was like, hey, there's something here. Let's actually create a business around this particular use case. And that kind of led to developing Better For You formulas. So let's go to the next slide. And with Better For You formulas, we focus on a scientific approach for developing functional formulations. So it's the end product of multi-ingredients, focusing on plant bioactives, which are like the medicinal quality in plants, and really putting that together for a variety of different use cases. And I'll go more into our science and our technology and what makes us unique next. So let's go to the next slide. So we work with a lot of large brands among different types of applications, nutraceuticals, therapeutics, inhalables. We'll go into that. Basically, functional products, if you're not familiar, are like things that can give you an effect, like euphoric feelings or energy, or can make you more calm and less stressful. It can also help with therapeutic qualities, ADHD. It could help with immunity and inflammation. There's a variety of different things that it help with, but we cross all these different areas and categories. All right, next. So this is one of the things that, like, I discovered when I started researching this space, because I don't come from a biology I come from a technology background and actually a finance background prior to that, but this was kind of a new space for me. So I started really investigating, like, what do people currently do when, if you want to develop a product, let's say you want to come out with your own, nutraceutical brand, right? And so and everyone claims there's science behind it, but what really happens? So like, there's like a kind of dark science to this. What happens is people generally go and find a hero ingredient, and they go to these trade shows. And when you really kind of peel back the onion, you'll find that a lot of these guys are getting stuff from China. And they've done like a bunch of like rubber stamp these studies and then say, hey, this hero ingredient's amazing. And then people like use that as kind of the sun in a constellation of other ingredients they just kind of throw together. There's no real science behind it. There's no technology. There are these people, formulators, and that's kind of how it's done. It's very ad hoc. And then people do trial and error. And then, oh, I like this formula. Let's bring it to market. So that's kind of the world of today. And we're bringing something completely new using advanced technology, AI, basically doing in silico modeling. So in silico means you're doing it in machine learning and computers. And we're looking at, for whatever use case, we come up with the definition of the success criteria. And then we try to understand what's the mechanism of action in order to lead to get that effect. And then our technology is able to look at all known bioactives to see, what are going to be most aligned for this particular thing. And then on top of that, we do something that no one else to date has been able to do, which we're able to look at all of those ingredients synergistically. And so therefore the sum is greater than the total of those ingredients. So we can also look at if something's antagonistic, meaning it's something that's a negative and it needs to be taken out. So I'll go more into that, but that's essentially what we're doing. We're and we have PhD level scientists that are behind this. Everything we do is FTC compliant. And generally what comes out is brand new science. That's the end, okay? It's something that is very new, that has never been shown before. There's underlying science, of course, from the individual ingredients. We can surface everything that actually has known scientific clinical studies that have backed it. But then from there, the combination is new. And what's novel is how whatever problem we're solving with that. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
No, I'm trying. It's going. Here we go.
So we solve formulation, pharma grade innovation, clinically validated formulations. Again, it's published research that what it leads to. First of its kind, synergistic modeling. Go into more detail. Ultimately, this allows for going to market much faster. Instead of taking years, you can get this done. We can do this in 6 months or less. And then we also provide commercialization support, which, when a brand goes out to market, they have trade claims they need to make. It's like, hey, this provides, less stress or gives you, deals with inflammation or whatever. Like, to make those claims, it's like not an easy thing. You have to back them up. Otherwise, the Federal Trade Commission comes after you. And we have a story of someone being kicked off of Amazon, a very big brand, because of that. And we were able to show the science to prove that. So it's a big deal going to market. Next slide, please.
Well, I'm trying to. Okay, there. Got the wrong button. Here we go.
All right. So kind of the key of that, kind of the core of how we've solved synergistic modeling is around the concept of swarm intelligence. All right. So nature is very amazing. Nature, has a lot of intelligent design built into it, and people have researched this and know that it's fundamentally based on biological systems reflect resonance, coherence, and harmony embedded in the very structure of nature, in the patterns itself. And you can even go deeper look at people have done studies looking at Fibonacci sequences, golden ratios, and all of that stuff that's within the the intelligence of human nature. And we know what swarm intelligence is basically a bunch of individualized agents. Okay, and those could be as small as a cell or could be a biological entity here, like these are birds coming together, or these are schools of fish, and they're coming together in a pattern. There's no centralized player. They're all just kind of in coherence in a collective, we can call it consciousness here with this community, coming together in harmony. And this is kind of represented. And so let's go to the next slide. And so it turns out our human biology, the human physical body, has very complex systems biology. We got the lungs and the immune system and the brain, all of these things, and they all operate very similar, like with swarm intelligence. That they're all agents kind of cohesively kind of acting within an adaptive order. And so, of course, we have the cognitive system here. Also, cells have a very interesting communication system. They're all kind of just know what to do. And that's reflected in neurons, organs, immune responses, epigenetic mechanisms, even the micro, like all of this stuff is just, and this is kind of an emergent area of science culture, systems biology. And this is really kind of the core of what we're doing, is looking at everything from a holistic standpoint. All right. So what we do is applied swarm intelligence, which again, it's very adaptive to complex systems, right? And so, like I said, it's decentralized, emergent. So again, decentralized is not a common player. So we're using a different type of AI than traditional AI. And AI today is basically transformer based, meaning that it's kind of like a spotlight. You have a central query that you're going into in the data field and saying, hey, give me everything that looks like this, or I need this, and it's being pulled in. Okay. And so there was like 20, 30 years ago, there was a split off between traditional AI and then what's known as information theory. And what we are based off is information theory. So information theory means we look at the whole patterning of the system, and we have the system tell us what's going on there. Okay, so it's a very kind of open question, and that's what's called emergent. It's the solutions emerging from the patterning of the system of all the individualizations, and it's very adaptive. It evolves in real time, and again, it's great for complex systems. Let's go to the next slide. So our kind of the main innovators behind our technology, Dr. Anton Glittery and Dr. Shama Khadji. They're renowned scientists from the pharma world. They've worked at some of the largest pharma companies. Tony, which we call him, has over 100 patents. But more importantly, they've actually taken products, innovated in the lab, and brought it to market successfully. And that's a rare thing, even among pharma scientists. But these individuals started getting involved in human systems biology and started rethinking, what they were doing in pharma, because pharma is basically just looking at single compounds, okay, small molecule compounds, and then trying to solve that. They don't do like integrated multi-ingredient solutions. And so they started looking and saying, well, what if we could look at the human biology as a whole system, and then it tells us how to solve for it. And that's where they started getting involved in this area. Tony's a complete genius. He went to the same school that Albert Einstein went to, and he started also developing the technology layer, real Renaissance guy. And that's kind of what led to the underlying technology for better for you formulas. Let's go to the next slide. So we are essentially the first product discovery platform in the functional health space, looking at phytochemistry, proprietary ingredient mapping. Basically, our system allows for mapping and then predictions. So it'll surface up predictions like this compound will work for that solution. And it also tells us what's known in the industry as a mechanism of action. How do you actually solve? What's actually going on to produce that effect? And so that's the science that's needed in order to get patents, in order to get trade claims, in order to do published research. Let's go to the next one. I don't need to go on all the science here, but actually go back. I'll just kind of, what we're essentially doing is we're taking a lot of data. So we're taking unstructured data, all the public literature on all different medicinal plants worldwide, natural product databases. We're also taking structured data, structured omics. There's genomics and all these different things are all omics. and pulling all those proprietary databases within the system. And then we're also creating kind of systems biology models that we actually need to develop for like the lungs or the brain, and putting all that, so how they all kind of coordinate. And then we basically created ontological mapping so they can all be normalized, all that data within an ontology structure. There's a company called Palantir that kind of does this in defense and stuff, ontology. And then we understand what the mechanism of action is from that emergence. And then we look at then we go find the individual ingredients, compounds, bioactives, or phytonutrients is what they're called in the space. Again, everything we're doing is plant-based, right? And then from there, we get synergy forecasting. And then from there, we get kind of a pool of different candidates. And then we prioritize those candidates. Then work with the client and say, okay, here's the kind of the top candidates. And then they'll go and test it out. If this is not an FDA, drug or anything like that, then they'll just test it out with their consumer and saying, hey, this is how do you feel, and that type of research. And maybe they'll do some EEG and some other stuff. And everything we're doing is safe because we're getting all the ingredients that are generally accepted as safe. They're called GAF ingredients. But we can explore outside of that if that was someone wanted something super, super novel. And then so that's the output. So next one. Yeah.
Can we dummy this down for a moment? Because I love this stuff, by the way. As you know, we own multiples, so we're using a dog biscuit, or let's just say a human biscuit as an example. Yeah, and I came up with this formula in my house, and it's like, I think this biscuit's gonna be big energizer, it's healthy, it's gonna improve my brain function, blah, 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 blah. I come to you and hire you to run this through your thing. Could you just walk me through how?
Yeah, so that's not our main use case, but that has happened where people come and say, hey, we have something, and can you tell us what's going on with it? Okay. So we can actually pull, we can look under the hood, as you will. We can look at what's the actual science. Is it working? And those ingredients, like maybe like, you got 8 ingredients and like 6 of them are actually really coordinating, and then the other 2 are garbage, and you can just, or maybe there's one that's actually negatively impacting, it's called antagonistic qualities to it. We could look at all that stuff, but we could also give you other use cases that you're not aware of in that as well. So
your primary target audience are the pharmacies,
no.
Who's your client?
Our client are large brands that are in, so they're nutraceutical companies, they're functional product companies like food and beverage companies. Okay. They're one of our clients is a tobacco company.
Okay.
We'll explain something interesting there. We got a pouch company coming on board. Those type of things. Okay. We have non-alcoholic kind of companies looking to, there's actually an interesting thing emerging where there's these companies in the device space, and they want to get out of it and look and then create something that has a similar effect, but that's healthier. And that's actually a really interesting use case. That's the one I'm kind of driving right now. Wow. And I'll explain more about that in a moment.
All right, sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Are you
Just did.
Are you adding any educational elements around unnecessary fillers in current existing, supplement functional products?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're not doing that because we're like the R&D.
Yeah.
Right, but that's generally where we're going, is kind of bringing real science to the space, that it's really kind of clouded. It doesn't really, like, people are doing all this crazy stuff, and that's one of the known things. And so the clients we're working with
cover a lot of things.
Yeah. So our clients are wanting to create kind of a new, premium products that are that don't have anything that's unnecessary. That's completely, a complete whole product. And so that's where things are emerging into in this space. Yeah.
What would you say is best in class supply chain right now that is the closest to delivering products that you're envisioning? I mean, there must be, this is not a new conversation in the industry. And I'm curious, who's your top competition?
As far as synergistic modeling and prediction, there's nobody. I've searched everywhere. Really. Yeah. There's absolutely nobody. I looked at it. There's a company that finds novel ingredients, which, so I'm seeing kind of like you can look at it like you could call supply chain or this kind of space that's evolving. And there's different kind of players that are typically different kind of aspects of that chain. So there's a company called Brightseed that does the ingredients. So if you wanted something super novel ingredient that's never been known, I guess only 1 to 2% of all known plant substances have been completely mapped for their bioactive, which is basically the active ingredient in the plant. So there's 98% of plants out there that no one's really looked at before. And so if you wanted to find something novel, then you go to them and you would get that, you can get an ingredient, you could patent it for whatever use case. But we don't find it necessary because we could pretty much, like everything that, all that 2% is like massive, there's millions of stuff. We could combine and create kind of, it's almost like alchemy to solve anything within that base of stuff. But if you wanted to go even more beyond that, then that would be a way you can look to expand, yeah. Okay, all right, let's go to the next slide. Or did you have a question? Yeah.
I have a good question. So I mean, in terms of the data, you're looking at all this data to drive some kind of insight. And I mean, say you take a compound, like a natural one, like sulforaphane, which is in broccoli sprouts. You look at all the, metabolomics, transcriptomics, everything, but where is that data? Because if I take sulforaphane, I mean, I don't tell anyone, I don't record it. No one even knows I'm taking it. So how are you acquiring that data set? Like for all the plant compounds and the effect they have in the body, where are you able to get that?
So we are able to map all that. We're able to model all that. So we take all the bioactives that are in all these different plants. And then we have all the omics data for all the systems in the biology. And then we know how like the interactions work.
Okay, so making predictions, yeah. You take
Making predictions, yeah. But we're actually not looking for like what an individual takes as a diet. We're looking at like what you want to create, and we reverse engineer to get to that effect, right? So there's a particular effect, and before that there needs to be a formulation, right? Before that it needs to be designed. So it has to have individual ingredients, and we kind of work backwards to get that. So it's a product, and that's at the end of the day, everyone wants a product, right? So that's kind of the holy grail in this space in that sense. Okay, let's go to the next one. So applications, we're able to focus on mood, wellness, euphoria. We just kind of finished for a client on euphoria, which was very complicated. Like, how do you define euphoria? Happiness, relaxation. There's actually somebody just group in University of San Diego found the mechanism of action for stress, and it just came out a few months ago. They're calling it the yoga pill, and they think that it would take like 10 years or something for big pharma to develop a pill. And we feel like we could probably, if we have the right partner that wants to solve this, we could probably do it in maybe like a year. We'll develop that, or maybe even less, maybe 6 months. So that's the type of stuff we're looking at. And so we also want to do more stuff around the brain, because Tony has a background in chemistry, is also neuroscience as well. So if we find the right partner, we can look at ADHD and things like that as well, solving. And then therapeutic immune support inflammation. We'll go into some case studies around that next. And here we are. All right, so case study number 1. There's some stuff, like a lot of what we do is confidential, but there's a few that I can share with you guys, so that are more recent. So we looked at solving what's known as innate immunity, the core underlying immunity in human biology. And in that process, we developed a certain combination of ingredients. If taken together, would give the most optimal response and support with innate immunity. And so far, and there's actually a published research being peer reviewed right now on this. This is new breaking science. And I've taken this up, and everyone I know that's taken this formulation, and we have a partnership with a company called Fierce Immunity, and then also Global Healing, which is a very large holistic company. And people don't get sick when they take this stuff. It's like crazy. People with kids and stuff, like they just don't get sick. So it really works. It absolutely works. I've taken it.
What's in it?
These are the vitamin D, zinc, quercetin, aspartame, arginine.
Okay.
There you go. Next one, Cardio Miracle was a client that I think. Well, anyway, they're very big in cardio health, and they have a huge business, and a lot of their business comes from Amazon. And the Federal Trade Commission came after them for making certain claims. So they had to take everything down, and it's costing them like 10, 20 million a month or whatever in business. And so they're like, hey, can you guys help us? So we went and looked at all of the undergrounding science, it's like pages of stuff. We proved not only science, but we also looked at their ingredients. So kind of going back to you, Alex, what you asked earlier, we were also able to look at, hey, actually, you can actually, what you're doing actually also solves for these other issue, things. So we're able to expand their benefit. So that was a successful one.
So you determined that if I eat my biscuits that are good for my heart, it actually removes toe fungus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of like, so you're doing profiling on all those ingredients, right? And you're like, oh wow, there's other interesting areas here you haven't explored, and it solves for that. So yeah,
we get it.
You got it. Okay. So here's an interesting one. I can't tell you the name of the client because it hasn't been commercially released yet, but we have a very large tobacco company that came to us and wanted to they're very innovative. They're like, hey, we want to do some non-tobacco related, solutions. And we first worked with them on developing something for like around energy, a very unique energy, so people inhale it. And another one for the calm and stress relaxation. And then they were like, and that's very complex. By the way, no one would touch tobacco, right? Just go back, let's stay there. No one would touch tobacco because it's very complicated, because it's not just a pill. You actually have to solve for inhalables. So then you got to work with the lungs and then the brain, and you got to look at all of those complications. But not only that, we did such a good job and we were able to do it in such record time that they were so impressed, their lab, that they said, could you guys really do anything? And we're like, yeah, we love impossible challenges. Give us something that you really want. They're like, well, give us an analog to nicotine. Like if you could solve for that, that's based off plants. So we thought about it and we wind up coming up with a candidate. They tested it with smokers, people that smoke all the time, and they loved it. And not only that, we went a step further, is that we actually added some additional things into that formula that actually will heal their lungs. So this is what we call impossible nicotine. Okay. And this is the initial products will be going commercial at the end of this year. And then then the rest will come out next year. So our process, I mean, we don't need to go too much deeper, just, define the criteria. We go through kind of all the in silico modeling, we make sure that they can get IP protection. And then there's of course testing and validation. If you're going to go do something like botanical drugs, or that's kind of a new emerging area, which I think this will be hugely applicable to, because botanical drugs is all in multi-ingredient formulations. Then of course you've got to go through like lab studies, in vitro, and all these other things. So anyway, let's go to the next one. We could do any types of deliverability formats that a client can request: topicals, pouches, edible foods, liquids, creams, whatever. So we can solve for all that stuff. We can also do a lot of micro enhancements. So if you wanted to, hey, I want it to taste like, taste of something. So we don't do the taste part, but they would work with flavonoid brands, but we can make sure that it integrates really well. Like sometimes functionality can dilute the flavors or don't work well. So that was one, we've had to solve for that. If there's certain issues, we can resolve that. There's certain inputs that you want to add in addition to what we're adding. We can integrate that as part of the discovery process. We can also control desired effects. So like color, onset, potency, dosage, duration. Like onset's an interesting one, Sometimes when you take a herbal pill, it can take 20 minutes, right, to feel effect. But if you're used to smoking like inhalables, nicotine, these guys are expecting something to hit pretty fast. So that was one of the things we had to solve for, is get a very fast onset with the inhalable company. All right, next one. Teams, I have a background in different tech companies. My friend Robert, who was actually my client of mine with a previous tech company, We became friends. He actually has done a lot of business stuff with Bruno Mars. So started, a couple of his ventures. So he's got in the consumer packaged goods area, alcohol brands. My friend Phil, who got me involved, he's started Wonder Water and some other nutrient companies. And then we also just recently brought on Janice, who's is a manager at L'Oreal. He was CEO of a company that was acquired by L'Oreal, and then previously was head of innovation at Philip Morris. We're looking to bring some more people on right now. Maybe I shouldn't include this, but this is, it's not cheap doing groundbreaking science, of course. If you want something that's kind of something we've already done, it's probably and tailored for your use case. It's at that program, and then if something very complex starts at that rate, and then there's obviously royalty because it's a co-partnership when we develop these formulations. All right, next. And how are we doing on time? Wow.
We're good, we're good.
10 more
Well,
minutes.
In total?
Yep.
Okay, so just, again, here's a summary of all the different things we're providing our clients. And let's go to the next slide. That's it. Time for.
Great. All right.
How are you funded? How are you funded? How do you fund this machine?
Our customers.
Just customers. So you're bootstrapping all this and you just have.
You don't pay up front.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the nice
Good-
thing. That's
good
one of the
model.
things I found about this industry, is how it just, it takes a while to get the contracts, of course. But
Is there an exit plan for the business?
the scientists are old, like they're kind of in their 70s, so we're one of the key things is getting other scientists, but they're able to train them. It's not complex enough in a way that with the technology, and then if you have the right kind of chemistry, photochemistry background, that you'll be able to kind of use what they built and all the processes to expand and scale. But yeah.
Hey, Joe, how did you initially recruit these two scientists, these emeritus types? Because isn't that really your key success factor if you really have the science capability ready?
Yeah, so they were already doing this stuff. I didn't really quote recruit. It was kind of more like a partnership kind of integration. They were already doing this, but they didn't really have a good background on business,
Okay.
bringing it out to market. And they didn't really have a good go-to strategy. They were doing a variety of different things, like working with Department of Defense, and then clients would come for this use case. It wasn't really coordinated. It was more like they were looking at more of a service business because they come from pharma, right? So to them, they didn't really kind of look at things of like how to scale it.
How did you know about finding?
Through my friend Phil, I was introduced to that.
Those?
So he's like, "Hey, I need someone like you if you're interested to do this stuff." And so then we kind of combined forces, as we will.
So you were the business case developer guy, they're the science case capabilities and data marriage.
Yeah, I'm kind of the front office, as you will, and Phil's kind of the mid office, kind of managing between both. Yeah, and they're the back office. You can think of it like that.
And what was your website again?
We've been kind of not needing to really promote ourselves, but now we have a website it's not finished yet, but it's coming up soon. Yeah, because a lot of it's all just through relationship based, and then we've had capacity issues because we can only do a few at a time.
Yeah.
So we already have ones that are waiting. I'm bringing on a pouch company that all these they're looking to be super innovative and look at like pouches like as a new delivery mechanism for herbal solutions, and they're all like ex-jewel people, and it's like really fascinating. So that's one we're kind of
What's a
bringing on
pouch?
board right now. Pouch is like where
It's like
generally people think of it as tobacco pouch, like people put it in their lips. But it's actually very interesting because it goes really fast to the blood system. So it could be not only used for that, but as a delivery for other things. Yeah.
Well, one thing I always wonder about was, you mentioned these hero ingredients. Yeah, so there's some scientific study, does this ingredient, does that, and then, but you always wonder, does it work at the level when it gets out of that bottle?
Exactly. Yeah.
The potency,
100%. Yeah.
that.
Right. So Tony actually worked with a couple people, like if you look in the NutraSpace, there's a couple of these people that are like kind of, proclamating they're the top, formulators in the world, and everybody kind of wants to work with them. And so he worked with a few of them and they were, and basically he found that, oh my God, this whole industry is like garbage because they were literally just bringing stuff and just wanted him to like rubber stamp it as a scientist.
Yeah.
Right.
And just say, hey, could you put this? And we'll just we'll just do those studies quickly in China or whatever. Like just, it was all marketing thing. The whole thing was a marketing thing.
Not
And he's like,
science,
no, that's not
marketing.
how we work. You know, because Tony's bringing pharma grade, standards in science, right? Like it's a different world there. And so we're bringing it to this space. It's kind of, so yeah. So Jordy.
I guess considering part of your business model, would you guys ever consider licensing your technology to all the big pharma companies? And I think with supplements, it's just a very, very tough deal. Just with the oversaturation of other competitors and how, I mean, I see this all the time. Supplement comes to the market, it does really well first month's year, and then all of a sudden you guys are knocked out by a competitor. So how do you guys will have a sustainable?
Yeah, so I mean, there is an emerging trend of these premium supplements that really have real science behind it. But I think our sweet spot has been where I've been trying to focus is more on consumer packaged good companies or tobacco companies that actually really want to bring functional health to space or transition devices to more of a health. So like the next is we're looking at like an alcohol company, like or something that wants to be in that space. Like what was that big festival, Coachella? There was a number of these non-alcoholic kind of brands that were there.
Yes.
So I think that's a space that we can enter and help, maybe a category leader in that space really develop something very novel. Well, maybe, yeah.
Other questions? Good questions.
I'm curious about the whole process. So you have the machine learning algorithm, and then why does it take a year if it's all in silicon? Are they putting through through the model and it's spitting out some compound, they're testing it, and then it's going back and forth, back and forth?
Well, but, yeah, we would say about 6 months.
Yeah. Does it take that long? What's the process there, if you know?
Well, it's not as simple as just, you have to really get clear on the mechanism of action of what you would like. So there's a process there. So first it's like defining criteria with the client. I want euphoria. Then it's like, okay, what exactly is that? We need to actually understand like what that is. What's the response in the body that leads to that? And then you have to kind of reverse engineer into like, what are actually the systems that play in the body? What are they, and then when you develop okay, this is kind of what we're looking for, the mechanism of action. Then you're looking at like what are the ingredients out there. So this like process, using computers, but it's still a process of doing modeling, bringing the modeling back. You need like people with phytochemistry expertise to understand what they're looking at.
Right.
Does that make sense? And then it's kind of this. It's just like how we would interact with AI today. Put something in. Is it good? Do I like it? Do I want to change? So it speeds it up and it gives us a robust, process, of course. Yeah.
Wow. I like the idea of, I'm struggling too with the process because it's so complex. It really is. But the way you describe that reverse engineering. So I want an herbal tea that I can have at night that is time released so that at 7 a.m, I wake up like that and I don't need any coffee because it has a kick in of a caffeine sort of kick. So I come to
sleep at the right
and it puts me to sleep at 11:05.
That's a pretty good impossible.
This is kind of what I have in mind for this herbal tea. I come to you saying, this is the solution we want. We've been manufacturing teas for all these years. We have all these things. You then reverse engineer that, say, well, you need this. These are the body chemicals that need to happen. Here are the ingredients that do this. Now we need to combine those ingredients and you go back up to the top and try it back and forth until you get as close to that as possible. Is that
so when we get to the point where we actually have the candidates, like it's like very high efficacy, like it's 99%, like it'll work. It's just then it's like tweaking it, or maybe there's an ingredient that's not easily sourced. And so then you got to find something, an alternative or maybe, but like, it's pretty much like, it's amazing that the degree of accuracy with the predictions that we are getting. Like, that's what's really crazy about it. And then it's like, then we don't do the testing, or our clients do.
Okay.
Because we don't know what they're, how it's their audiences they're testing.
And they have the burden of FDA approval if it is indeed.
If they're in, if they want to bring something to, botanical drugs or something like that. But most of our use cases right now do not require FDA.
Right. Kevin.
Yeah.
Do you have situations where you can't really offer a guarantee, like Alex's tea, where you're like, we're gonna give it a try, but you might be out 500 grand, you just can't?
Well, I mean, that would be like the impossible of
Yeah.
tobacco and nicotine.
Yeah,
Right.
so how do you?
We weren't sure if we can do it, but we took on the challenge. We had a high degree of confidence after, solving for the lung, like we already did a lot of work with the lung brain connection and all of that in order to solve for the first like 3 products we worked on with them. And so our confidence level increased. And then we were like, okay, well, let's look for this, let's do this. And so that's an example of something impossible. So now we're like saying, hey, bring us the most impossible challenges you have. We'll take it on. That's what literally the science is saying. They're that confident. They're like, yeah, we can do it.
So Zach,
Go ahead, Zach.
one more question. How wild do you think the effects you could produce? Produce psychedelic effects, or could you like?
I like where you're going with this. Keep going.
Yeah, that's
How wild? Yeah.
we can go very wild.
Very.
Well, this could be another startup. I've got in the back of my head.
This could be a really big deal. Right.
Could you formulate hair regrowth or something like that, or?
Yeah.
So Joe,
We just haven't had anyone come to it. I mean, yeah, we could, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jordy,
Yeah.
I'll get you back.
Yeah, how do you protect yourself from liability if one of these products you're working with, like something goes terribly wrong, like it kills a lot of people?
Right, that's great. So all the ingredients are all what's called GRAF ingredients, generally accepted as safe. They've all been researched, and so we're taking from that pool of ingredients that are. And if you wanted something outside of that, then you'd work with this other company I mentioned, and then that would be a whole nother process. They would do toxicity on that. But once the product is done, then it's one of the things they test with is to see if it's a toxic, but it's not going to be anything dangerous that might like have a weird reaction or a taste or something.
Right, but those people that are testing it out first, if they do something wrong, are you protected? And that does happen with like partners you work with, like they mess up on their end. And as a result,
Yeah.
it's to.
Yeah, we're protected. Yeah.
Cool.
oh, just where's your company based? Is it here or elsewhere?
I'm here, and then I have Phil's in Hawaii, and then scientists are in Connecticut.
United
Okay,
States?
good.
Robert's in Toronto.
That's wild. Good.
And
Time for one more question.
How long has the company been in existence?
so the underlying research work has been around for about 8-9 years. And then we kind of all came together about a year ago to start working on this in its new form.
So you've ran through at least 4, pretty
Yeah, and more. Yeah, there's a lot. There's other things too. Of course. That's great.
Let's give Joe another one.